Hello, and welcome to the Artists Make Money podcast, where artists share their thoughts and feelings about money. I'm your host, Vivienne Egan. I'm an interactive theatre and comedy producer, podcaster, and freelance business writer, and I love finding out about all the clever and creative ways artists make their incomes. Today's guest is actor, cake maker, and calligrapher Benedict Salter. We talked about how he began his calligraphy on cake business, Baker and Scribe, the reliability and unreliability of taking up temp jobs between acting work, managing industry expectations at drama school, and navigating savings and pensions when self-employed. This episode of Artists Make Money is brought to you by our friends at Side Hustle Sites. They make designer flat pack websites, like the IKEA of websites, with helpful instructions and guides for how to make your website look really great. It is cheaper than Squarespace, and their templates are actually specialized to particular jobs. So they've got templates for theatre professionals and for freelance writers. I'm actually about to use them to build my freelance writing website because I don't have one. Or they can actually design you a website from scratch, which they did for me on the Artists Make Money website. If you sign up via sidehustle-sites.com/AMM, I will link that in the show notes, you will get a fantastic, professional looking website and your first month subscription free and the second month half price. That is just for Artists Make Money listeners. On with the show. Hello, Ben. Thank you so much for being on Artists Make Money. Can you start by telling our listeners who you are and how you make your money?
Yes, I can. Thanks for having me, by the way. My name's Benedict Salter. I'm an actor by trade, I guess. And I've been very lucky over the past few years since I left drama school. I'd say I've been able to have enough acting jobs to be able to make most of my money, but not quite enough. So I have been making money and supplementing my income as many ways as I possibly can. And the main thing that I do is I bake. I take a lot of cake commissions, and I'm kind of in the process of setting that up as a proper side gig.
Yeah.
But there've been many things in between.
Yeah, give us the whole list.
The whole list.
An interesting list.
Okay. So I've worked in several box offices in theatres. I've been a private tutor. I have done I also, we'll come on to this later because we'll get into the specifics of the cakes later, but I also do kind of calligraphy. So I have been hired for a couple of kind of calligraphy commissions as well. I've been a temp. I've been an office temp a lot, particularly in barristers' chambers. So I know far more about the legal profession than I probably should. I have worked for friends, when successful friends who've got like real jobs. I have, they've said, I need someone to come and do some work for me for a few days, and I've done that. And I've also, since the pandemic started, I've been working pretty much full-time for a pharmacy, an online pharmacy. So I know more about the pharmaceutical profession than I probably should as well. So it's a rich tapestry.
Yeah. What's the worst and best of those side jobs?
Okay. I think that, the best is being a cake maker and being a cake designer, because that makes me feel creative and artistic. And there's also something about cake. We can talk about the psychology of cake until the cows come home. But honestly, there is something about delivering something to someone that everyone takes a slice of the same thing and everyone shares in something together. I think that's gorgeous. I think that's so lovely. And that's why I really I do make lots of different things, but cakes is kind of my thing. And it's mainly because of the way that it brings people together. So I'd say that's definitely the best. The worst, there are probably two for two reasons. Temping is bad because you have to re-explain yourself every time you go. You have to be like, hi, I'm a temp and I'm here to learn something new again. And you have to meet people and fit into their way of life, which isn't your way of life, again and again and again. Because you could just be hired as a temp in a place for a day. I've worked at book publishers for one day. And I've worked at a barrister's chambers for 2 months. So, you have to fit in and you have to knit yourself into their community quite quickly and make yourself as useful as possible. That's difficult because that's tiring, and you have to make yourself incredibly adaptable. I'd say the other worst thing is working for the pharmacy has been the worst in the sense that I've had to take on a full-time job where I sit at a desk and work at a computer 5 days a week for a year. And I'm not built for that way of life.
Yep.
I've recently gone down to part-time. I only do 2 days a week now, and that's a blessing, an absolute blessing, because I've still got a bit of money coming in, but I'm not chained to my desk 5 days a week.
Yeah, I think that makes a huge difference. I actually, similarly, in the pandemic, I got a temp job. Oh no, it was a contract role. So it was a full-time thing. And it was 6 months, and then they extended it to 9 months. And then they were like, would you like to be here permanently? And I was like, no.
Absolutely no way.
It was like the only thing keeping me going was the light at the end of the tunnel.
Exactly. Knowing that it was always temporary is a good thing. And I did make my position at the pharmacy very, very clear. I said, I will not be here forever. And similarly to you, I was initially meant to be there for 4 weeks. Then I was there for another 6 months. And then I said, theatres aren't opening anytime soon. Let's do another 6 months. And then it came to the end of that. And I was like, I'm going to have to go down to part-time. But because since the beginning, I'd been like, I am an actor and this is a temporary thing for me. They were like, okay, as long as we know where we stand with you, then that's fine.
And how, to what extent, I'm wondering, you're sort of describing coming into these new situations all the time. I'm wondering two things. And one of them is do you kind of, when you say to yourself, I am an actor, do you kind of feel like people aren't seeing all of you when you're coming in this temp situation? And also I'm wondering, to what extent does being an actor help?
Yeah, I definitely think so. To come to your second point first, it's not the kind of entering a new scenario that's the problem, because when you're an actor, you enter a new scenario every time you start a new job. So it's not necessarily coming in and meeting a new group of people that I'm bothered about. I do that all the time. Every time I start a play or anything, you're meeting a new group of people and you're starting from day one. However, when you move into somewhere that isn't an acting thing, when you're going into a barrister's chambers to start work there as a temp for a month, you're having to adapt yourself to their way of life that isn't the same as yours. And I think being an actor does help with that, because as an actor, you are malleable and you are adaptable and you are willing for people to give you direction. So in a way, yes, because I can come in and be the person they want me to be, which is myself. But coming back to your first point, I know it's not me wholeheartedly. It is a version of it's a professional version of myself that I think I've been brought up to always give 100% and to work hard and to respect people and to be a good person that people want to have around, no matter what the job. So I just switch on what I need to in order to, I try and absorb as much as possible, and I try and make myself invaluable. When I worked at the barrister chambers for 2 months, they knew I was leaving on a particular date because I had an acting job immediately after. And they were begging me to stay because they'd lost a receptionist, and they were like, please stay, you're the best one we've had. And I was like, that's lovely, thank you, but no, because I'll die.
Exactly.
You don't understand. there is a life support mechanism attached to me at all times, and it's the theatre. And if you take me away from that for too long, I will just asphyxiate, which is a terribly pretentious thing to say, but I don't know. It's part of that whole artist existence of having this thing that keeps you going, but it it doesn't give you quite as much as you need to survive. So
yeah. Listening to you talk about all your different jobs and stuff makes me kind of think, we talk a lot about like the gig economy, but sort of acting is, well, the theatre in general is like the original gig economy, right?
yeah.
And it's almost like you have to be, unless you're like the 0.1% that makes all of their money from acting, you have to be a business person, you have to be a hustler, quote unquote,
Yeah.
and just be sort of willing to do that all of the time. It's kind of, I mean, I assume they don't cover that in drama school.
No, do you know, this is something that's really been at the front of my mind a lot recently. I don't know if it's because of the pandemic or because of, well, it's kind of been, when we were at drama school, they used to bring in famous actors to talk to us, which is lovely. It's lovely having famous actors come in and tell us about their incredibly successful careers. But what they should be doing is bringing in a mixture of actors. So you can bring in the famous actors all you like, because it's brilliant to sit there and listen to Benedict Cumberbatch, talk to you about his time at drama school and how he made that transition. You should also be having jobbing actors.
Yeah.
Actors like I would consider myself to be someone who goes from contract to contract, making ends meet, but doing good work, and then bringing in people who go, yeah, it's been a while since I've done anything. Because the problem is they kind of tell you at drama school, if you're in a class of 25, one of you might be super successful, rich and famous, Hollywood star, might be. And then, I think the statistics are something like out of a class of 25, one person might have that kind of career. Another two might have a consistent, successful acting career. Another two or three will kind of struggle their way through, and then the rest will not act after 5 years.
Wow.
They will have had to leave the profession. So they don't tell you that enough. Because everyone sits there in their drama school class saying, I'm going to be the one. Yeah. I'm going to be, it doesn't matter. And of course you should hope that, because if you don't hope that, if you don't hope that you're at least able to make acting your profession 100% of the time, then there's no point in you being an actor. You've got to have that hope and that drive. But at the same time, the realistic side of things is not delivered to drama students. And it's a real shock for some of them when they come out. I was incredibly lucky. Bearing in mind I left drama school without an agent, I managed to sign an agent in the summer after I left. I was so lucky. And then I'd already booked a job that then lasted. So I was straight out of drama school into a job. And then I had an agent, and then we went from there. There were people in my class who came out and didn't act for 2 years, and it is a training that you lose if you don't do it. So it's incredibly frustrating when you can't get better if you're not doing it, but you can't, if you're not getting better, then you can't get the jobs. Yeah, I mean, I'm on the verge of emailing my drama school and being like, you need to stop bringing in actors who also older actors who, this one, I'm not going to mention their name, but this older actor, very, very successful British TV, film, theatre actor in his 60s, 70s, came in to talk to us. He chatted a bit about his life. Then he said, right, any questions? And a student put their hand up and said, how do you make the transition from drama school into the profession? And he said, I joined a rep company.
Right. Yeah.
They don't exist anymore and haven't done since the 80s.
Yeah.
So that is completely pointless. That is utterly pointless, because we're all sitting there going, well, good for you, mate. But you know, what do we do?
What do we do?
And also the profession is much more saturated now than it was when he was
Yeah,
leaving drama school. So
definitely. I think you should email your school because that
I'm,
sounds like a
yeah,
very good idea.
yeah, yeah. You need to prepare people, basically.
Yeah, and actually, a few people have said to me in sort of doing this project and wanting to talk more about the money side of things is like very few drama schools prepare anyone for the money side of being like a one-person business, you know.
Yeah, yeah.
So it's
And there is even a version of being an actor where you actually set yourself up as a limited company. You
yeah,
say, I am Benedict Salter Limited, and you hire my services as an actor. It's not a tax loophole or anything. You're still paying the same tax, but it's a different way of doing your taxes.
yeah.
I don't do that. I just am self-employed as myself. But then, yeah, there are other people who've been like, oh, actually, I might just set myself up as a company.
Yeah, I actually, for my freelance writing, I did that because I got this contract job last year. And
Yeah,
actually, it was a huge like mindset shift for me in just seeing my services as a business. And obviously, that's much more of a business kind of
yeah,
thing than
yeah.
acting is. But yeah, it really helped. And then I just paid myself a consistent wage out of my businesses.
Earnings. Yeah,
Really
yeah,
works for me, and I can see why it would work for some
yeah,
actors. But yeah, I mean, I've
yeah,
done it the other way too, and that's also fine. But
yeah,
you need to know that these options exist, what each of them mean, um, and so on.
yeah,
Um, Speaking of businesses, tell me more about the cakes and the calligraphy.
yeah.
I want to
So
know. I want to know everything.
yeah, so how else am I creative? How am I continuing to hold on to the fact that I'm
Yeah.
creative at heart? So I've always baked since I was little, and I really actually got into it when I was doing that first job after I left drama school, and I had for the first time in my life really a kind of disposable, not a disposable income, that's wrong. I had money to be able to spend on stuff for myself. And I thought, I'm actually going to buy some equipment that's going to help me be able to take this to the next level.
Great.
So I did. And I just, just spent a lot of time watching YouTube in my dressing room about like seeing how people make cakes and seeing how they can be a real kind of, an art form. I mean, there are some people who make the most incredible artistic cakes, and trends in cakes come and go, and there are lots of things that people do. But there are some people who are really kind of going in. There's this incredible Russian cake designer I follow on Instagram, and I think it's him and his sister that set up this company, and he trained in fine art and she trained in architecture.
Ooh.
And their cakes are absolutely just the most intricate but beautiful, simple statues, structures that are also delicious. And I really wanted to kind of find my own way. I wanted, because when people talk about, when you're an actor, you have to have inside you a unique selling point.
Yeah.
You have to have something that makes people go, I need him rather than him. And that is subjective, So I really thought to myself, it's like, if I'm going to do this, what is going to make my cakes different to anyone else's? And I also just coincidentally have quite nice handwriting. And so I was also kind of developing and it came after leaving drama school, when I was doing plays and things, and I was writing opening night cards, and I always make my own cards, and I was really personalizing these cards for, I was in a musical, and I gave everyone in the musical a card where I'd kind of written in nice kind of calligraphy on the front of it a song lyric from one of the songs that they sang in the show, and that kind of thing. So it's nice to kind of do those personalized touches for people. And then I thought to myself, because I'm very word based. Being an actor, I like words, and that's why I like calligraphy. And I struggle sometimes with the designing of cakes because it's very kind of image based. And I was like, I wonder if I could write on a cake. So I've basically got this company on the way. It's called Baker and Scribe. I'm on Instagram. My website is being made.
Great. We will link to it in the show notes.
Please do. And Baker and Scribe is a kind of all the cakes that I try and make and get commissions for do have an element of calligraphy worked into them. And for example, I'm doing a wedding cake in August in which one of the tiers of the wedding cake is going to have written round the outside the lyrics to the song that the bride is walking down the aisle to. Weddings are really good for this kind of thing because of that. But people can have the readings that they have at their weddings, or they have a particular lyric or entire song that people enjoy. So I thought, okay, I can't see anyone else doing that, and I think that I'm a strong enough person to at least be able to give that a go and make it a kind of quite individual, as much as possible, cake design company. So yeah, I love it because it's a creative venture. It is by no means paying the bills at the moment because I haven't even got a website. I haven't got myself out there at the moment. I'm only really making money out of things for friends and family, and I charge way too little, despite all of your help, Viv. Despite all of your help, I am not charging enough because I don't feel like I can charge my friends the actual price that things cost, and B, I don't think I'm good enough yet to charge that. But one thing I said to myself recently was, because whenever I offer the cake to people, they say, how much is it? And I go, well, it's mates rates, obviously. And then I thought to myself, I can't have mates rates until I have rates.
Yeah. That's so true.
Because if every single cake I make is mates rates, that is just my rate.
That's just right.
I can't have mates rates until I have an actual price that I charge for things. So I'm still working on that.
How are you going to arrive at your rate?
A lot of help from you, and your material that you've provided, and I've basically made I've got this spreadsheet of core materials where I know exactly how much, because when you're a cake maker you get into the trend of kind of being like, when I make this cake, I know it will take this amount of ingredients. It's not like every cake I make is going to take a different. I might try. It's like, I'm going to make this type of cake, so I know it's going to use this amount of flour, this amount of sugar, etc. So I know by the gram how much those ingredients cost.
Wow.
So I know that when someone says to me, "I want this type of cake," I know exactly what the ingredients will cost based on where I in particular buy my ingredients from. Then I have a kind of, then I'm working on an hourly / day rate, because depending on the size of the cake, depends on how long it's going to take me. I can do a cake in a day, so it should be a day rate really, but then wedding cakes are basically 3 cakes in one. So I need to, and then I also need to make a profit and pay me for my time and skill. That's the bit. That's, it's the ingredients finite, the time somewhat finite, the skill. That's when you have to put a price on yourself. And being an actor, it's quite easy to do that because you have equity saying you are worth this amount of money. Whereas there's no baker's equity that I know of. Maybe there is.
Maybe a baker's union.
Yeah.
Are you also, just nuts and boltsing this, are you also factoring stuff like wear and tear of your equipment and like electricity and stuff like that?
Nope.
Yeah.
So I must
imagine if it carks it and then you're up shit creek.
Yeah, exactly. And I do have, I have some savings put aside, mainly from the last year of working at a full-time job.
Yeah.
And I'm keeping some of that aside for things like if something breaks just all of a sudden.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's a bloody minefield.
Yeah.
It's not. It shouldn't be. It's a minefield in my head.
Yeah, I suppose it's just, going into any of those jobs, you say acting or temping or whatever, most of the time people are going to say, this is how much I'm going to pay you for this. And you can either say yes or no or try and negotiate it a little bit. But when it comes to just like picking a number, but I think the
Yeah.
more you think about all those different elements of like, I don't know, the electricity used in your kitchen and
Yeah.
the time you spend marketing and taking photos and corresponding and all of that stuff, like the more of those things you put in, the more I think you're able to justify your own rate to yourself. I know
Yeah.
it's a slog.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
No, it absolutely makes sense, and it's being able to say to people, it's being able to say to yourself, I'm worth this. And obviously I spend a lot of the time looking at competitors' prices. When I say competitors, I think the word competitors is so aggressive because it's not like I'm shoving people out the way to like be like, no, get my cake instead of that person's. But looking at other people in my area who sell cakes and what they charge, and I'm mind blown
Yeah.
by what they charge. And absolutely, I'm like, wow, if I did one of their cakes every week, I'd be fine.
Right.
I mean, but I, I need to, because you also feel you need to get yourself out there in order to be like, no, you don't understand. I'm worth it because I've been doing it and I've got these people saying how good I am. But luckily, I do have a lot of friends who can say,
Yeah.
we've had these cakes and they're great. So it's just really pushing yourself over that hurdle of being like, if I'm going to take this seriously, I need to take myself seriously.
Yeah, definitely. But I think also really good to know what people are willing to pay
Yeah.
as well. Like that it is not outrageous to charge
No.
what you think might be an outrageous.
No, and I was having a consultation with a friend about her wedding cake, and she kept kind of joking. She was like, and maybe we could put this in, but don't bankrupt me, that kind of thing. And I was like, oh, okay, clearly she's on a budget. So when she came saying, how much is this going to cost? And I was like, well, actually, I can probably do it for this amount. She was like, oh, no, charge £100 more. And I was
Oh,
like, oh, okay, your budget. You were thinking I was going to be charging £500, £1,000, and I was going, oh God, she probably can't afford more than 100, so I better, keep it at that end. But yeah. So I think I think people are especially something nice for a wedding. People are willing to commit.
definitely. And they are very beautiful.
Thank you.
I have a, a question that comes from my assistant who helps me with editing the podcast. She was looking at your
Yeah.
picture. She was like, how does he write them on that angle? Like, because it's on a curve
Yeah.
upright.
Yeah. Practice.
No!
I'm really sorry. A steady hand and practice. Yeah, because if I tilt the cake at all, it'll collapse.
Yeah.
So I actually find it easier now to writing on the top of a cake. I find very, very difficult because I feel like you're kind of podcast listeners can't see what I'm doing with my finger, but like I actually find that quite difficult. Whereas, I raise it up quite high and having it in front of me, you do not know how much I've experimented with different material, like how to what type of icing you can write on, because you can't write on all of them.
No.
And what edible material you're using to create the writing.
Yeah.
So it's and again, there are some things that work better than others. A darker icing with a lighter writing is very, very hard to because you really have to kind of intensify the color of the writing. Writing on a light icing with darker writing is a lot easier. And luckily, especially for things like wedding cakes, people don't necessarily want sometimes they do want like a black cake. Sometimes it can be quite stylish, but a lot of people want kind of light and pastel colors. So
yeah. Well, I mean, sounds like you have spent a very, very long time honing your craft. So I think
yes,
you can be confident. And
yeah,
not only this, but also just the baking. You've been baking for much longer than you have been an actor.
yeah. And I always bake a cake for opening night of shows and that kind of thing. And it's something quite nice and that's the kind of area I want to move into as well. Is like saying to these producers, like, I can do that, and I will write the lyrics of your show around the cake and that kind of thing. And I will, I think there are, and I've got a friend bringing out a book soon, and I was like, can I write the first chapter of your book around a cake?
Perfect.
So there are other areas to delve into that are slightly more corporate as well.
Yes, yeah, absolutely. And fantastic marketing, and yeah, brilliant. Also, I think so next on your list, even regardless of producers or whatever, once you've got your website open, just literally write an email to everyone who you've ever baked a cake, who's
Yeah,
ever had a slice of your cake.
yeah,
That's gonna kick you off very nicely.
yeah. I hope so.
Oh,
You've
fantastic.
had you've had one of my cakes, haven't you?
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. I think probably several times actually.
Yeah, I think I've forced it upon you quite a few times.
Well, I think you made one for John, my partner's birthday one
Yeah,
time.
yeah, it did. Actually, that was hilarious because I had two cakes that day for two parties that happened to be but streets away from each other.
That's very handy.
So I actually delivered John's cake and another cake at the same time, and then split my time. It was
Perfect.
great. It was great. Yeah.
Yeah, they're amazing cakes. Can vouch. And
Thank you.
anyone who wants a cake and is in London, you
Yeah, I'm kind of only London based at the moment, but listen, the world is out there. So
possibilities are endless.
yeah.
Um, so when you get your money,
Hmm.
what do you do with it? Are you a saver?
I am a saver recently because of having a full-time job, and having a steady income makes me more inclined to save.
Yeah.
Now, I've had a conversation with an actor friend very recently, actually, about she's another jobbing actor, and she's said something that really hit home. She said, because you go from these periods of, potential poverty when you're not working, when you're not able to get a temp job in between acting jobs, and you literally have nothing. When you get a job, especially an acting job, you feel rich because you get paid weekly, especially in theatre, which is dangerous. and we don't get paid that much. People think actors get paid a hell of a lot, especially in theatre. You don't get paid that much. You get paid a basic wage for a week's work. But when it appears in your account, you're like, Jesus, I can buy things. And then you go, well, I've been meaning to buy that for ages, so I'm going to buy that. And I've been meaning to put money towards that, and I'll join my gym again, and all this kind of thing. And so it's quite hard for me to save when I'm self-employed. I have a very good pension.
Oh, good. Is that through equity or
through Actors Equity?
Yeah.
They have a great pension scheme. So I'm always saving in that sense when I'm working. From my very first job, I said yes, I want to have an actor's pension. So there'll be something there when I get to whatever retirement will be. I like to have some savings, and I try to control that by putting it not just in a not in a savings account that's linked to my bank account, because they're too close to each other. Because then you can just dip in and out. But if it goes off into like an ISA or something, it's much more difficult for me to get hold of it again. So I try to manage it that way. But I'm not good. I'm not good. It really has to be a long-term job for me to start saving. So when I did my first job at drama school, which was 7 months in the West End, I saved a lot, because I knew it was going to be a job that took me from September to March or whenever it was. So I saved. And then, after that, I had a couple of months of nothing. And then I got a job that was only 2.5 months. And I didn't really save anything from that, because I'd been out of work for 2 months, and then I was only working for 2 months. And I was like, well, there's kind of no point in saving, because I need this money now. So you have to kind of get into a headspace of, really, when those big jobs come along, going that, okay, I can save from this, and this will support me in the month. But this is the thing, the savings then become, that's how I will support myself when I'm not working.
Yeah, so it's kind of like an insurance policy rather than like an actual savings that is accumulating for your future. Yeah, no, it's really, really hard. I mean, that's why I kind of, want to talk to people who are doing like their interesting side businesses that can keep on running alongside your creative work, and then hopefully be that buffer that you can fall back on. And
that's the dream. The dream is to be able to have that side business that means it will always be there to come back to, because it's you, and that you don't have to rely on anyone else. I have a friend who about 6 months ago took on a full-time job. She's an actress, and she took on a full-time job, and then she was offered a little kind of month-long acting job, and she turned it down and said, it's actually not worth it, because once I leave this temp job, I don't have it anymore, and I can't get it back, because they'll get someone else in. Totally. So temping isn't something you can always fall back on, because you can't be guaranteed a temp job when you come out the other side of it, of an acting job. So to have that side business, that means that when you finish an acting job, you can be like, cool, I'm just going to really push hard on the for me, the cake stuff. Going to make sure, and also, if you're sensible, if the side business is going well, and then a little acting job comes along and goes, oh, I'll only make that much money on it, it's actually not going to help that. You can kind of be like, actually, no, it's August, and I can make 6 wedding cakes in 2 weeks. So maybe I'll just do that. You've really got to kind of balance the two next to each other, but I think they're both feeding into the same thing. So it shouldn't be you have to really care about the side business, as maybe not quite as much as your full-time thing, but you have to care about it enough to make it want to succeed. So and they're both feeding you financially and emotionally,
creatively.
So,
yeah, absolutely. And well, the whole point is that it just gives you options, as you just articulated so well. Like, that's all money is options.
And it's nice to be like, have the option where you're like, I am going to go on holiday, and I'm not going to let anything stand in. I mean, it's an actor's curse. It happened to me in September last year. We booked a holiday, because I think around that time it was kind of okay to travel in the UK. We booked a holiday to Cornwall, and we booked it that morning, and that afternoon my agent called and said, you've got an audition. And then I got the job, and I was like, I can't go on holiday. And then hilariously, that job then got terminated halfway through because of COVID. So we went back into lockdown. So it's sometimes it's nice to be able to give yourself the option of being like, I am going on holiday, and I'm going to tell my agent that I don't need to work because I put aside this time and this money at this particular time to do something that feels normal. Because it's quite hard. Quite hard to feel normal.
Yeah. It is.
Yeah.
What financial mistakes have you made?
I have, I mean, classically eaten into my savings without a real thought and ended up in a position where I had nothing. If I hadn't got a temp job the week after, which was complete fluke, I don't know what I would have done. I don't know what I would have done. And that just came from me being like, it's okay, I've got savings. It's okay, I've got savings. Oh, my savings have gone. I don't look at my bank account as much as I should. I think that's a very repetitive and common mistake. I have definitely, I mean, when it comes to the cakes, I've definitely spent more money making a cake than I've then charged for it. Because I've been trying to be, I've been trying to be nice, and part of me goes, well, it's experience, it all adds up, it all, yes, I've never made a cake like that before, and it will cost me money to make it. However, it means that I will be confident making that again in the future. And then I've actually made a couple of cakes where I haven't been upfront about the fact that I need to be paid for them. And I can count on my hand 2 separate cakes when I've delivered it to absolutely no mention of money whatsoever in one case, or I've delivered it on another occasion to someone who then went, I can't pay you for this. And again, like I said at the beginning, I'm the type of person who wants to be reliable and good and friendly and have people come back to me. So I've just not done anything about it. Those are huge financial mistakes. Those were 2 very stressful cakes as well.
Oh no.
Yeah.
Well, that is definitely one to learn from.
Yeah. I mean, it was me basically saying, I think I put a tweet out saying, anyone need a cake? I'm in the cake business. I can do cakes for you, blah, 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 blah. And one person got in touch with us like, so you can make me a cake for my birthday? And I was like, of course I can. Deliver the cake. 0 mention of anything. And I was just like, oh, right, okay. Should I just send you an invoice?
That is so awkward.
Yeah.
Well, I'm not doing that again.
Not doing that again. No.
Oh dear.
So yeah, those are my financial mistakes. There's quite a few.
That's okay. I mean, none of them seem catastrophic.
I've not gambled my life savings away on something, on a horse race or something, and I've not put a deposit down on a house that I can't afford or anything like that. But they're more kind of habitual financial mistakes.
Yeah. And they're like entwined with like your emotions and your
self-worth.
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah.
Totally. What lessons about money did you learn growing up?
I mean, we didn't have much at all. I grew up in a very underprivileged town in England, and there were 4 kids, 2 parents, but only one of them worked because my mum was looking after us. My dad didn't earn very much at all. Money to me was always something to be worried about. It was always something to be worried about. And then when I left university, when I turned 16, my parents were like, so what job will you get? Not because, for many reasons. One, they were like, you're going to have to work. That's what the world is. You're going to have to work. Secondly, they were like, you getting a job will allow yourself to have far more financial freedom than we can offer you. They couldn't have lavished money on me at every single opportunity. They didn't have much. My younger 2 siblings have quite severe learning difficulties as well. So it was always about doing things for them, which I don't resent. I completely understand that. They needed more help than me and my older brother did. But it always meant that we were money was always hanging over.
Yeah.
That's how it felt. It wasn't like we sat there and counted our pennies at every mealtime and went, God, how much do we have? It was just always like something that just hung over us. And my parents have never, ever, ever been disappointed in the path that I've chosen for myself. They probably are, but they've never told me. But I think they thought that I could have done anything. You know, I was a good kid at school. I was relatively intelligent. I passed exams well. I could have gone off to I could have been a doctor. I could have been a lawyer. I could have done anything, and I didn't. And I think that I can sense my parents' kind of level of calmness by how much work I have.
Yeah.
Because they will always be concerned that I'm not going to be able to get enough money to get by. They will just, they know as good as anyone that the life of a, inverted commas, struggling actor is, you know, for want of a better word, a shit show. Like it's hard. It is grueling for many reasons. And one of the biggest ones being the fact that you don't have money coming in all the time. And to them, that sets off alarm bells because they know that they've been in a position where they've had to sell possessions in order to live. And they have both come from families where they didn't have much. So money to them is an absolute necessity, and they don't quite understand when I say things like, I'm finishing my acting job next week and I don't have anything lined up. To them, that's really, really worrying. So, and it's worrying to me, sorry, on top of all of this, like as a result of that, I live a life where money is constantly the forefront of my mind. And I think that I'm now very good at, when I'm not working, really reining everything in and saying, I'm not going to go out to dinner. If I see a friend, I'm going to be sensible and we're going to do something that I can afford and that kind of thing. And you know, if I have a day where I don't have anything on, I will just, you know, do housework or, you know, do some kind of cake planning or something that doesn't involve spending, you know. I will always try and live quite a frugal life when I know I've got nothing on the horizon. The dangerous periods are when you know you've got an acting job, but it doesn't start for 2 months because you're like, yeah, but I've got money coming.
It's in the column marked 10.
Yeah. It's just around the corner. So then you start spending money like you're earning it, and you're like, no. That's not how literal money works. So yeah, I think I definitely grew up with a feeling of that money is a worry.
Yeah. And as a kid, you absolutely, like, even if, as you say, it's not like having the conversation all the time, you just absorb that, and it is so in you.
Yeah. And then as a result, it's there for, and it meant that, you know, from the age of 16, every weekend I was working in a shop, and every holiday I was working as much as I could. I worked in when I went to university, I got a job in a shop, and I went to a university where not a lot of people needed jobs, let's say.
Yes, yeah. I'm familiar.
Yeah.
Which is so weird to me because that is not a thing that happens, to the best of my knowledge, in Australia. Like, even my friends who had wealthy parents, none of them were like funding their time at university. Although a lot of them, we did. It's a bit different there. A lot of people live at home, so you do have that, like, financial outlay taken out. But
Sure.
the number of people I've met who went to your university who didn't
Yes.
have jobs during university is just like,
Yes. Yeah. And it was honestly, what was weird to me is that I was the weird one. That I was the weird one having to go and work in the shop Saturday and Sunday.
Yeah.
And sometimes having, because, I did a lot of drama at I didn't study drama, but I did a lot of student theatre, and having to say to people, I can't rehearse on that day because I'm working. And they'd be like, what, you mean studying? And I'd be like, no, my job. I work in this shop.
Yeah.
And to them it was unbelievable.
Yeah.
Now, they're not bad people.
Yeah.
They were just in a slightly luckier and more fortunate position than I was. But honestly, it meant that I had to stay at the city where my university was through the holidays,
Right.
to work. And then luckily what happened towards the end of my second year, I was actually at university for 4 years because I did a master's, but towards the end of my second year at university, a job came up in my student accommodation, because they hired out the accommodation over the holidays for conferences and things, and they needed people to kind of run the conferences and show people to their rooms and be on hand to help with everything. And I got one of those jobs, and that was brilliant because that meant I could live there for free and get paid. And people said, well, why are you giving up your summer holidays like that? And I was like, I don't how are you funding your summer holiday? Like, I don't understand. And my parents would just assume that I would have a job. That it was if I hadn't had a job, they would be like, what are you doing? Why are you here? And they loved, when I came back to see them and everything, but then I'd always have to be like, I've only got these many days off work and then I have to go back. It was bizarre to me that people could live this life where they didn't have money hanging over them as a worry. I remember one occasion at university, I had to call my parents and say, I have no money. And it was, I think, the most shameful moment of my life. Honestly, it was, I felt like I'd failed. I really felt like I'd failed. And that's another thing I think that, not having money equates to failure, and not having a job equates to failure. And therefore, my parents don't want to necessarily be having a discussion with my other relatives and their friends about how I'm not working. And that moment when I had to, and it happened once. And I know people who used to call their parents every week.
Yeah.
And their parents would just offer, and I had to call my parents. I had to specify the amount. I think it was something like £50. I was like, I need £50 to see me through until the next time I'm going to get money.
Yeah.
Because I think I had a job coming up. But I remember speaking to them in that conversation. I remember thinking I shamed them. It was really hard. And I think ever since then, don't ask my parents for money because, well, I'm in a position now where I don't need to ask my parents for money, but I think I've been in positions before where I've not even told them that I'm struggling because I can't. It's money's weird.
It is. It is. And this sort of, the shame around money, I think, is so common as well. And that, like you were just saying, this having a job means successful, having money means successful. And no, they don't mean those things.
No,
They can,
no.
but they don't, it
Yeah.
depends on what you're measuring success by. But,
And this full-time job I've had for the past year during the pandemic, yes, a level of stress has been taken away because I had a full-time income, but I was stressed all the time because I was unhappy and miserable, and completely that life support of my creative life had been cut off completely. And I like having a self-employed lifestyle because I enjoy doing different things all the time, and having different things scheduled for different days, and some days are free and some days aren't. And over the next 2 weeks, I've got really, really busy time because I'm having to fit in these 2 days of work. I still do the pharmacy amongst rehearsals starting for a show I've got coming up, and lots of other things, and a few cakes along the way, which are going to have to be done in the evenings, and all of this kind of thing. And I love that. I feel so nourished by that lifestyle.
Great.
And I think now that I know that about myself, I'm at least part way to feeling not successful, but no, fuck it, successful. Because not because I'm out there in Hollywood films and running the best boutique cake shop in the country, but because I have found a way of living that stimulates me creatively and intellectually and is financially viable. And I think that equals success somewhat.
I think you can call that success. Because as you were describing that, I was just sort of thinking, like, imagine believing that a full-time job equals success, and then being miserable in it all the time and going, well, I guess this is success.
Yeah.
That's awful.
But isn't that horrible? Because then you go, well, I don't want that. What is it that I want?
Yeah.
I feel like a bit of a virus at the place where I work full time. Well, I have been working full time for the past year, because I've been talking to people who, to them, a full time job is the norm.
Yeah, yeah.
And I'm going, you don't have to. You could be self employed like me, and you could do this bit and you could do that. And they're like, I've never thought about it like that. And I'm like, just gonna leave the thought with you.
That's great.
Bringing people over to the self-employed side.
I think more people, I mean, honestly, what I want is universal basic income so everyone can just like follow their bliss, whether that is full-time work or what.
Because some people, they would still do full-time work.
Absolutely.
They that's what they want to do. And some people love a full structure.
Yep.
Some people love working 9 till 6, Monday to Friday, having the weekends free and doing that repeat.
Totally.
Fine. Absolutely bloody wonderful. I can't survive like that. So, but
Yeah, well, it's great that you have like consciously understood these things about yourself, and now you can create the life that you want in the way that suits you best.
And that's what I think is so important, is creating the life that you want, forming a life, knowing enough about yourself to be like, no, this is what I need, rather than following the path that you think you should because it'll make someone else happy, or because you think it'll make you happy. Yeah. There are going to be periods of time, for example, the past year, when I've had to take on a full-time job. That was something I created for myself. In saying to that company, yes, I will work full time for the next year for you, because I knew that come now, when I've gone down to part time, I've got acting work on the horizon. I know that is such a buffer that I've created for myself, but I wasn't following a path that I necessarily thought I had to. I was just like, I'm going to take this for now. I'm going to suck it up and I'm going to do it. Whereas there are people in that job who are going insane because they think they just have to. They think they've got this job and they have to keep it.
Yeah.
And they do, to an extent, because they don't know any way of getting out of that. So that's why I'm throwing self-employment in people's faces.
Here Ben comes along.
Yeah.
Showing them all the different ways you can make
it work.
Definitely. Right, I've kept you a long time. This has been great. I want to ask one final question, and that is, if you were giving some advice to a younger version of yourself or a young actor, maybe you're back at your acting school, real talk, what advice would you give?
I would say that oh God, I mean, there are so many things. I think I'd start by saying you're doing the right thing. I think there were so many points when I was at drama school when I was going, I mean, should I? because I knew that the end, you get to the end of drama school and it's just like a diving board.
Yeah.
and then it's sink or swim. And I think the first set of advice I would give myself is just to be like, you are doing the right thing. And I mean, depending on how explicit I could be with myself as well, I would want to say, you are going to find a way, you're going to forge a life for yourself that involves making money through creative methods. There are going to be times when you can't do that, but pin as much as you can on making those creative things work for you. Because I know myself now, I lived my life for so long thinking that I was not as creative as I should be. And I know myself now, and I know that I am creative, and I know that I'm creative in my own way. And I would go back and I would say to him, you've got to pour as much creativity into your life as possible. And if you can make money from it, great. And you will make money from it, great. There will be times when you can't, and that is fine. And those will be moments where you just have to knuckle down and work hard. You know, my parents taught me about working hard as well as this worry about money. Whether those two things came hand in hand, I don't know. But the benefits of that now are me knowing how best I work and how that can be a creative thing as well as a financial thing. I think younger me would just need to know that he was on the right path and that there will be ups and downs. But my God, probably buy him a few drinks as well. Just be like, are you okay?
No.
Yeah. God, wouldn't that be nice? Just go back and tell yourself and just be like, it's okay.
Yeah.
It's okay. You've made a really, really brave decision. Going to drama school, because when I got accepted to drama school, my mother's first question was, how are you going to pay for it?
Yeah.
And I said, well, I have some money that I have saved, because in between university and drama school, I worked. I went and got jobs so that I could pay my way to drama school. And then I got into drama school, and my mum was like, how are you going to pay for it? And I was like, well, I can pretty much see myself through the first year, and then we'll go from there. Yeah. And then I applied for a scholarship and I got one. And I was able to call my parents and be like, you don't need to worry about me. I've got a scholarship that is not only paying me through my fees, but also giving me some money to live on.
Amazing.
So it's great.
That is great. And actually, it's such an under talked about thing when we're talking about stuff like, you know, class access to drama school, where again, all of the middle class kids will be like, oh, I'm so happy for you, sweetie. Everything is paid for, no questions asked.
Yeah. Because when I called my mum and said I've got into drama school, she wasn't going, great, here's £30,000. She said, how are you going to pay for it? Because I knew that she couldn't.
She wasn't going
and that money wasn't going to come from them.
No.
And yet there were people at my drama school who didn't have a care in the world. Again, I had a weekend job. They told us, they said, you will not be able to sustain a weekend job. And I said, well, I will not be able to live if I don't have that. So, you know, and there are good opportunities at drama school as well, because you can steward auditions and you can work in the bar and you can take people's tickets on the door and that kind of thing. So there are ways that you can work at drama school. But I was like, yeah, I'm also going to have to do some other stuff as well. And just kind of kept that a bit quiet. But some people were able to just walk in through the door and be like, you know, they say to you in your audition, how are you going to pay for this?
Wow.
I don't know what I said. I think I was just like, I think I must have said, yeah, I'm good. Don't worry about it. And then got in and then was like, cool, I'm going to need a scholarship though. But some people, you know, they probably can just sit there and be like, how will you pay for this? And they'll be like, my parents are going to pay.
Yeah. Yeah. And then,
or grandma's left me some money or something.
Yeah. Grandma's died.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, yeah, grandma's died and I decided to go to drama school.
Yeah, totally.
So, you know.
And also, yeah, it makes me really sad to think of all the people who would miss out because they couldn't. And
there are people who do not apply because they think they can't afford it.
Yeah.
And I, you know, is this me admitting that I lied my way into drama school? I don't know. But when they said, can you afford it? I just said yes, and then I couldn't. So then I said, okay, I will need a scholarship.
Yeah.
But they also have money. They have money to give out.
Yeah, definitely. And it's very important to try and access that.
Yeah.
Basically.
Yeah. Especially when you have to pay £45 every time you audition at a drama school each time.
Yeah.
So if you apply to 6 drama schools, you have to pay £45 6 times over.
Yeah.
Some people can't even afford that bit.
Yeah.
I only applied to 1 drama school, so I was like, here you go, here's all I have. I'm counting on you. But yeah, it's really, really, and the class thing is really difficult. And it's really interesting to see as well at university and at drama school how those different students from those different classes live, what they bring in for lunch every day, how they are on their lunch break, whether they're just going to the shop every day for that, all of that kind of thing. It's fascinating, and my drama school was lovely and really supportive, and if anyone needed help, it was there. But I know that sometimes people don't feel they can ask for it because of shame.
Because of shame, exactly. Yeah.
And because of self-worth.
Yeah.
Gosh, this capitalist society we live in is really screwing with our mental health, isn't it?
Yes, it is. Late capitalism.
Yeah.
So many things to be said about that. I just realized that I asked you one last question and then we talked for 10 more minutes.
I'm so sorry. That was my fault.
No, don't you be sorry. It was very...
It's a great question.
Was a very important insights into like that whole process, because I've never auditioned for drama school.
Yeah, I wouldn't recommend it. No, I would recommend it, but you have to be ready for it.
Yes, emotionally and financially, it seems.
Yeah. Yeah, very much so.
All right, I'm going to ask one last question, and that is, what is next? What is next on your financial horizon? What's the next goal?
So I'm now part-time at my full-time job, so it's not full-time. I'm part-time at my part-time job. So I'm holding on to that for a little bit so that I can have a little bit of money still trickling in. I'm doing 2 days a week, so that's 2/5 of what I was earning before. However, theatres are opening up again. I've got an acting job that we start rehearsing next week, and that'll keep me going for a few weeks. And the website is coming for my cakes, and my marketing is going to go up, and I'm going to start charging proper prices.
Yes, you are.
So yes, I am, because I'm worth it. And then and it's now a really kind of I've set aside some money from the pandemic from having this job to be able to now put money back into the things that will end up being my sustainable things. And I've got money I put some money towards the new headshots, and I'm going to put some money towards a new show reel, and use some of that money to make more opportunities for myself, but also keep some of it in an ISA.
Great.
For as long as possible. Get some of that sweet interest.
Yeah, sweet 0.01% interest.
Yeah. Hey, it's 0.01% more money than I had before, so okay, I'll take that.
Great.
Yeah.
Ben, thank you. It's been such a pleasure to
Thanks for having me.
All these things. I'm so excited for the cake business.
Please spread the word. Baker and Scribe on Instagram. It's going to be the next big thing. I don't know.
The next Instagram sensation.
Please, yeah. Well, thank you for having me, and thank you for allowing me to talk so candidly and openly about my financial situation.
Absolute pleasure.
Thanks for tuning in to the Artists Make Money podcast. You can find us on Instagram at Artists Make Money, where you can also sign up for our weekly newsletter. You can find me on Twitter at Vivienne 41, and you'll find Benedict on Instagram at Twitter at BenESalte. So that's BENESALTE. We'll link it in the show notes, don't worry. You can find his calligraphy cake business, Baker and Scribe, on Instagram at Baker and Scribe. The music for this podcast was composed by Tiiva, and you can find them at Tiiva Music. That's Tiiva Music. If you enjoyed the show, I would love it if you would give it a follow or share it with a friend. Being an artist is hard, and making a living from it is even harder, but I believe in you. Keep going.